Great then, lads and lasses, how we're doing, and welcome back to the channel. Not the typical video you'd ever expect from me. It's not daily news, it's not sort of what's surrounding Newcastle United. Actually, I've got a little bit of news which I will share with you in just a second. I can't help myself, it's not a match preview and it's not a match day vlog. It's something which I want to start doing on the channel. It's sort of like a fan discussion where we can all share our thoughts on certain topics with Newcastle United. Not particularly news, but just sort of stuff. For example, talks of moving from St James's Park has kind of crept up recently, but the one idea I wanted to speak about was the Conference League and Newcastle United's situation in where we're going to get with Europe, and why I believe the Conference League is actually the most beneficial in Newcastle United. Of course, we'll get into it. Of course, there is pros and cons for every single competition, as there is with the Champions League. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the video. Yes, it might come as a bit of shock to you, but this is why I believe the Conference League is what Newcastle United need for next season. And some people are going to say straight away, well, why on earth are you saying that the Conference League is beneficial in Newcastle? It's a European competition. Of course it's beneficial. The reason why I'm saying that is every sort of person I've seen is saying, well, we got Champions League last season, why do we want to be going for a Conference League? That's not upgrading, we are on a sort of a project here, we don't want to be downgrading. Well, it's just how the season's panned out. Let's be real with ourselves. Realistic expectations do have to come to play in this. Are we going to get Champions League this season? I think it's fair to say we are not. Even if that fifth spot does become available due to coefficient rankings or whatever it is, I don't think we'll even get fifth this season. We've just let ourselves down. We've shot ourselves in the foot way too many times this season. Dropped a few points at home. I don't think it'll happen, but look, it's not the end of the world. And this is why it also plays into factor to getting Europa Conference League football. Of course, if we did get the Champions League, I would not be complaining whatsoever. But yet again, the pros and cons of the Champions League is, the pros, you're in the Champions League, you're in the best club competition in world football, but the cons to the Champions League, and why I don't believe if we got in there it would be beneficial for Newcastle, is kind of what's just happened this season. Of course, we were so unlucky to not progress into the knockout rounds, genuinely robbed in Paris, didn't have a striker for Dortmund away, and was striker at home was pretty shocking as well, Callum Wilson. AC Milan at home were conceded in the last minute to knock us out, which we were definitely the favourites in that game. But the cons of the Champions League, that disrupted our season. That put us in poor form for the Premier League. We had to prioritise the Champions League when we should have been prioritising the place for the Premier League. Then we had to prioritise the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup at the same time. It's just not what we need and not what we can sort of compete for right now. Let's be real. If we actually did qualify for the Champions League, we're not going to win it in a million years. Let's be realistic. But this is why I believe the Conference League is beneficial to Newcastle United. So if you do enjoy this video, smash a like button. And of course, if you are new around here, subscribe for all Newcastle United content, and let me know if this is something you'd like to do to sort of share our thoughts on this situation. Of course, as you can see by the topic, why I think the Conference League is the best for us, and let me know down below what competition you think is most beneficial in Newcastle. We've taken everything into context. Now, the main part of the video, I believe it's the most important for many reasons, and we'll go through the cons first, because actually, I know it's not sort of a very high regarded competition. It's not the best of the best. It's not the Europa League or the Champions League. But there is still a fair few cons in there, let's be real. I've seen some people say, well, players aren't going to be sort of attracted to the club if we're in a Conference League competition. I completely put it out of the window straight away. Just to put it in a perspective, sorry, I kept mumbling there. We signed Alexander Isak. We signed Kieran Trippier, Sven Botman, Bruno Guimaraes, who actually we signed Bruno G and Trippier in a relegation fight. Then the next season we signed the likes of, like I just said, Sven Botman and Alexander Isak with no Europe at all. There was no sort of guarantee that we were going to get Europe in that season. Like we all know, we definitely overachieved that season, maybe Conference League or Europa, but we didn't have Europe whilst we signed that fantastic sort of calibre of players right there. So whilst we do have European football in the Conference League, if we get that, I don't believe that'll throw shade on getting players whatsoever. We could go out and get anyone that we want, of course, with realistic expectation. We're not going to go and get Mbappe, let's be real, although he is going to Real Madrid, if you know what I mean. And another reason why I don't believe that'll happen is because Newcastle United, if we still are in the Conference League, there wouldn't be that. I think it would kind of rule out to where we are as a football club. We are on a road which no other football club in world football is on. We are in a project where we basically have endless amounts of money. We basically can give players what other clubs can't in the bonuses and the contracts, sort of stuff that don't sort of get in with financial fair play. We can buy them 10 million houses, if you know what I mean. Of course, that's obviously not going to happen. But we are in a sort of a project stance where being competitions doesn't really matter, because in 5 years' time, we're going to win a trophy. That can be a guarantee in a contract. In 5 years' time, we are definitely going to be back in Champions League football, on the road that we are on already. What we've already accomplished, back to Wembley, Champions League football, signing players like Tonali, Isak, Bruno. It's going to happen. We will be in Champions League football in 5 years' time. We certainly won't be winning it, but we will be there amongst the best of the best. Certainly not exactly competing, but you do know what I mean. Two more reasons, actually a fair few more reasons, as I'm recording this right now, is coming to my head. One, which it should be an integral part of the footballing world, but with money and all that sort of stuff, with all merchandise, commercial reasons, fans are kind of neglected. But fans in this sort of stature is a massive reason to why Conference League is beneficial for Newcastle United. Of course, the reason being, we get to go on to away days we've never been before. We get to experience things we've never been before. And of course, just away days in general. To give fans European away days, it's exactly what we need. It's just what needs to happen, rather than just playing Premier League, FA Cup and Carabao Cup. With no disrespect to any of them competitions, because they've been around for a very long time. They are unbelievable competitions. I love to win any single one, but a European competition, let's be real, you can't beat the European ones. Playing teams away, beating sort of foreign teams which you've never heard of before, especially in the Conference League, it would be absolutely fantastic. And another one, the main one, which I just want to get straight out there, and it's what you've all been thinking of. The main reason why we do want to be targeting the Conference League is for a trophy. If we went into the Champions League, we're not going to win the trophy. Simple as. We are realistic fans. We would not win the Champions League. If we went into the Europa League, would we have a fair chance? I mean, look at the calibre of teams there. Liverpool's in there. I can't exactly remember any others, but AC Milan's in there. Of course, they beat us at St James's Park. We couldn't beat them away. The calibre of teams in there, maybe next season we could go for them. But as of right now, especially when we're building a project, of course, we probably would have thought when we're building this project, we definitely did overachieve. We didn't want to get Champions League straight away. We probably would have rather had no Europe for the first season, then Conference League, then Europa League, then Champions League. For a sort of project, you want to build your way up from the ground upwards, not just get there and sort of dampen expectations to go down to the Conference League, which also I think is a sort of it's a sort of catalyst to why Eddie Howe's job is kind of under pressure at the minute. Personally, I don't believe that, but that's why there is talk about Eddie's job at the minute. We've got Champions League football, and it's just how people look at it. Well, we're around mid-table at the minute. What's going on there? Unfortunately, getting that has sort of been a negative for Newcastle United at this moment in time. Of course, all the sort of stuff like revenue, exposure, global exposure to teams who've never heard of us before. Last time we played in there was 2003. So young kids who are from, I don't know, Indonesia, I've never heard of us before, will watch us from watching their favourite teams like Manchester City, will see us in that competition, if you do know what I mean. But it's the best chance of a trophy. What do we need as a football club? A trophy, 110%. And what better to get a trophy than a European trophy? Is it better than the Premier League? Absolutely not. Look, a Champions League for me is better than a Premier League, but it's definitely better than an FA Cup and certainly a Carabao Cup, or the League Cup at this moment in time for me. A European trophy, you can't write. We're seeing what it meant to West Ham United. We're seeing what it meant to them. They celebrated like they had won the Champions League. They sing Champions of Europe. We know what they are. I think that is a little bit snidey, like, but it meant the world to them. They hadn't won a trophy in God years, not a lesser amount of time than us, but still it meant so much to them. And if we go in this competition, by the way, we certainly will win this. These are the teams that are left in the Conference League as of now. And I just want to say, it basically is the calibre of teams that were in what we played in the Cellar Cup in pre-season. Of course, we absolutely slapped every single team there. The teams left in the Europa Conference League right now are SK Sturm Graz of Austria, I believe. LOSC Lille, they are a very good team, of course. They're from France. Olympiakos, Maccabi Tel Aviv, I think it is, from Israel. Molde from Norway. Club Brugge, Ajax, Aston Villa, USJ Union St. Gilloise, I believe it is, from Belgium. Fenerbahce, Dinamo Zagreb, PAOK, Servette from Switzerland, Victoria Pilsen, Maccabi Haifa from Israel, and of course Fiorentina. Every single team there, of course, some of them were in pre-season. We probably should be beaten. Even Aston Villa, who we definitely have absolutely battered, home and away this season. Is it 8-2 on aggregate? That's just off the top of my head. But every single team there, the main ones standing out are, of course, LOSC Lille of France, where we got Sven Botman from, and Fiorentina. We beat them in pre-season. We would definitely win that competition. And the last reason why I believe it's beneficial to Newcastle United, and we'll get your thoughts in just a second on what you think, but for squad rotation, for players who, unfortunately, we haven't seen play too much this season, like your Lewis Halls, like what I expect Lewis Miley for next season, because when Tonali is back, I can guarantee that midfield trio will be Tonali on the right, Bruno in the middle, and of course Joe Linton on the left. And even then we'll have Joe Willock coming in and out of that team, maybe going left wing, swapping with Joe Linton. That would be absolutely fantastic. Honestly, them two linking up together is absolutely unbelievable. But for the likes of Lewis Miley, they wouldn't be favoured in that team. He's done a fantastic job. He's an unbelievable prospect. I wouldn't send him out on loan, but getting something like Conference League where, let's be real, like I just said there, the calibre of teams aren't that sort of high, if you know what I mean. Put him in these games would be absolutely perfect for development and, of course, to get us on that path to that trophy. And of course, this sort of is the word counterfeit. Nah, I don't believe that's the right word whatsoever. The sort of word is on the back of that, of course, playing players in Europe, playing players which you wouldn't exactly play, sort of B-team players, which is a little bit harsh to the likes of Lewis Miley, Lewis Hall, who isn't favoured by Eddie Howe whatsoever. For some sort of reason, they would play in the Europa Conference League, but in the Champions League, with all due respect to them players, because I absolutely love them both, and there is plenty more, like Tino Livramento, who isn't exactly favoured by Eddie Howe at the minute. He somehow prefers Burn at left-back, which in some particular games isn't for me whatsoever. Some games I would start Burn, some games I would start Tino, but more or less I would start Tino more. You can't risk them sort of players who you wouldn't play in the Champions League because, like I said before, you need to prioritise the Champions League. It is a competition what you need to go for no matter what. You can't get in the Champions League and not go for it whatsoever. However, in the Conference League, like I did just say, yet again, the calibre of teams aren't exactly high profile, so we could play players who we genuinely wouldn't play, give them playing time, give them experience, give them European football experience, get a result, maybe even get a trophy doing that. It would benefit us in every single way. And of course, one more comment before we do just sort of end it there. The revenue wouldn't be there, let's be real. The Europa Conference League isn't in a sort of position where the TV market and I've said about 20 million times now, but the calibre of teams gives us that sort of exposure, but it still is a European trophy. But I've shared my personal thoughts. You let me know what your opinion is. Is the Conference League the most beneficial to Newcastle United? Now, please don't just look at it straight as, well, no, the Champions League the best. I want the Champions League. The Conference League's the worst. I want that. We'll have to take, like I've just said, absolutely everything into context. It's not likely we're going to get the Champions League. It's likely we are going to win the Conference League. It's likely that the fans are going to enjoy this sort of obscure away days. We can rest players. We can play sort of B-team players, which is a bit harsh, in that competition. Take absolutely everything into context, ladies and gentlemen. What is the competition you'd want Newcastle United to enter in to be the most beneficial for us? Yet again, don't just say Champions League because it's the best. You've got to take everything into context. We'll probably get knocked out. We're not going to win it whatsoever. But you let me know down below what your thoughts on, and like I did just say, what you think is the most beneficial to Newcastle United. If you did enjoy this video, hit that like button and let me know down below, do you actually want to see more of these sort of fan discussions? Because personally, I really do agree with, I do agree, that's a bit cocky, I really do sort of enjoy doing them, and I like sort of showcasing my knowledge rather than just doing daily news or match preview and reading statistics whatsoever. I like giving my sort of viewpoints on Newcastle United, which is what I think sort of builds content creation, if you know what I mean. Subscribe if you want, you around here, and of course hit that like button, it helps me so much, especially on these videos, ladies and gentlemen. I really do appreciate it. Without further ado, I've been Josh. Go and enjoy your day, people.